Make it plain.
Make it plain.
MIP.
With Masamela Matfumo.
Mark Thompson.
Make it plain.
Get woke.
God bless you. Get woke. Folks, MIP is now COVID-free, meaning free to all subscribers as we navigate this pandemic. We're thinking about everyone, and we've got to get through this together. So for a limited time, no fee to subscribe to Make It Plain on your favorite podcast app. Ladies and gentlemen, of course, it's Thursday, and we've always had DailyKos every Thursday for years now. And today it's a special treat because DailyKos, instead of Marcos, we have in the person of the wonderful and most prolific journalist at DailyKos of all time, Joan McCarter, joins us. Joan, so good to see you. How are you?
I am good. It's so good to see you, Mark. It's been way too long.
It has been way too long. And a pleasant sighting after that crazy debate that almost took everyone out. Joan, even people unlike us who don't sleep, eat, and drink this, which is traumatized. But Joan,
I think a lot of them just turned it off.
Joan, let's start there. I think that was his goal, to come in and just disrupt it so. Because if you get people to turn it off, they're not hearing what your opponent says either.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of what he was up to.
Yeah, not let the opponent get in on word edgewise and make it just so unwatchable that people just give up. Yeah.
And that's Putin-esque too, isn't it? I mean, destabilization, chaos.
Very much so. Very much so. And discouraging your opponent, disheartening your opponent, getting them so disillusioned that they just give up, don't show up. It's another form of voter suppression, definitely.
Yeah. But, I mean, we all knew it, but he kind of put words on it last night, didn't he, about why he wants to rush this, why he really wants to rush this nomination through.
The Supreme Court nomination of Amy Coney Barrett. You bet. Get this through because I want a friendly Supreme Court if I have to take this to the Supreme Court and get them to steal this election for me. I mean, he's got Brett Kavanaugh already, and now Amy Coney Barrett, who almost certainly will get on. Our only hope is try to delay here until after the election, and then hope that some Republicans have enough principle to say, no, can't do it. That's a slim hope. But now with Brett Kavanaugh and Amy Coney Barrett on the Supreme Court, he will have two seasoned election lawyers on his team because they were both with the George W. Bush team in Florida in 2000. So they have a thing or two in ways of doing this. They have experience doing this. And that's really frightening.
When your latest headlines suggest that Republicans could actually get cold feet, is that?
I think they could. I think they could if this happens after the election, because she's very hostile to Roe v. Wade. That's very clear, and probably more important for this election, very hostile to the Affordable Care Act. Mm-hmm. That case that Trump is bringing is going to be heard on November 10th. Exactly a week after the election. And they want her sitting there for it. If she's not, if this is delayed until after the election, and we think it's going to be the wipeout, it looks like it could be for White House, for the Senate, even some state legislatures, then I think you're going to look at the class of 2022 thinking, do I really want to go into that election? And it's a big class for Republicans with having destroyed the Affordable Care Act on my record. So, it's a gamble. We have no idea how the election is going to turn out in terms of the Senate. They could lose a lot. They could lose a few. We don't know what it's going to look like. Those who lose could end up coming back in the lame duck session feeling like just burn it all down, so they're happy to see it die, or we don't know. But our best bet is trying to delay it, trying to keep Graham and McConnell from forcing this through before the election. And we know already it's going to be a healthcare election. We know that already because we're in the middle of a pandemic. And we know she's going to be a vote to get rid of the ACA.
Do Senate Democrats have any procedural weapons they can use, Joan, to slow this down, gum this up?
They do. And the House does too. And I would like to see the House using some of theirs. There are a lot of things that the House could send over to the Senate that would be privileged. Various budget things that they could do, but particularly impeachments. I think Bill Barr is just sitting there waiting to be impeached. So's Louis DeJoy at the post office. If they decided to just go ahead and pull that trigger, they could send those impeachments over to the Senate. They would have to be privileged. The Senate would have to consider them before doing anything else. On the Senate side, what Democrats can do is just do everything in their power to gum up the works. So that means having somebody on the floor all of the time, denying Republicans unanimous consent to go ahead with business. This is a thing that happens a dozen times a day. Somebody comes up, says, can I have unanimous consent to go into committee? Can I have unanimous consent to bring up this, to bring up that? And if Democrats deny it, then it requires that they get a quorum on the floor, that they get all the senators to the floor, and they vote on proceeding to whatever they were trying to get unanimous consent for. That takes time. So things like that. They can deny quorums. They can refuse to show up to the Judiciary Committee for the hearings. Graham would probably be able to find a way to try to force through new rules for the committee to compensate for that. But it is something that they could do that would just get in their hair, gum it up, be an annoyance for them. And, McConnell does have some tools that he can come back with to try to stop these kinds of maneuvers. But I say, make him do it. Make him do it. Make this as hard for him as you possibly can.
Yeah. Do they really think voters have forgotten about Merrick Garland? That's, to me, is what's very interesting. That it's probably one of the most directly galling things in political memory. You say, oh no, we can't have Barack Obama's nominee, but we can have this one. And they don't even blink an eye.
They don't blink an eye. And we can't have a nominee 8 months before an election, but we can have one 4 weeks before an election. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't think they think that their base is forgotten. And for almost all of them, this is going to be about wringing out every Republican voter that they possibly can. So I think a lot of it is they're doing this to appeal to their base voters to make sure that they come out on the possibility that some of them might have had enough of Trump. I mean, it's possible that there are some Republicans thinking, I just can't pull the trigger for Trump, but I should probably go try to save my senator. Mm-hmm. It's possible. I don't know. I can't think like a Republican, Mark. I don't know.
Right. Well, of course you can. We aren't made that way. She has said, I believe, that she will not recuse herself from anything. Is that accurate?
She will recuse herself, Amy Coney Barrett, from any cases that involve her family who are also lawyers. So if they're arguing any cases, she'll recuse herself from those. She'll recuse herself from considerations of decisions she made while at the Seventh Circuit Court of Appeals. So if any of the things she decided there come before the Supreme Court, she'll recuse herself. She will not recuse herself if any 2020 election matters come before the court. And that's what's really concerning. That's our problem.
Because obviously that's where this is headed. I'm pretty sure we can predict, no matter what, he's going to fight.
He's going to fight. And, he promised, he said as much in Tuesday's debate. He said, yeah, I'm ready to take this to the Supreme Court. And I'm thinking about that in this nomination to the Supreme Court. He said it out loud, right there in front of everybody.
In terms of the debate itself, and I know the commission is talking about making some changes, do you think there should be any more debates?
No. No. Although, you did see a lot of reaction in the focus groups and stuff of people saying, whoa, he's really lost it. So, maybe there was a little bit of help that way. But no, I don't really think we need to see that again. And, it could be that the debate commission comes up with enough rules and enough changes that Trump will say, yeah, no, I don't want to do that anymore. So we don't have him anyway.
Yeah. Because they need to do, of course, everybody's talking about how they should have a means by which to cut the mic. Yeah. And we know he's not going to go for that.
No. So, not that it would shut him up anyway. He would just stand there yelling, but,
He would just scream like a madman.
Yeah.
It's because he just doesn't seem to care what that looks like. We were saying earlier about his different strategies. Maybe this too also, because now that's the story, his debate behavior. Does that distract from the taxes? You almost wonder whether, because, he'll create something else to distract from the other drama in his life. Like, Joan, I didn't know, did you know they give $73 million tax refunds? I didn't know they did that.
I didn't know either. I
even call a couple. I don't know.
For somebody paying $750 in taxes, I am gobsmacked by this one.
I don't know a lot of rich people, but I called one or two of them. I said, "Did you get $73 million refunds?" They were like, "Mark, we never like, what is going on?"
I'm just, the story's not over. The New York Times, thank God they're doing this. They're doing something to redeem themselves from 2016. They promise more. And I think one of the things that they're promising that's really kind of interesting, at least this is what I hope's there, is where all that money that he's sort of recycling through his golf courses is coming from. He's claiming that his golf courses are worth all of this money. Says he's doing improvements on them, improvements that aren't happening, uses that as a write-off. He's sort of passing money from pocket to pocket on his golf courses when they're not worth what, at least nobody thinks they're worth what he estimates them as. It sure looks to me like that's money laundering. Because he's not making enough money off of the golf courses to be claiming as much as he is. So I'm really hoping that the New York Times is digging into the golf courses and what's going on there. And all of his loans to Deutsche Bank. They've done work on Deutsche Bank and all of its connections to Russian oligarchs and to Putin. So we could see it all come together in the next month, which would be really interesting.
Yeah, it would be. Do we know how they got the taxes? Because everybody else is trying to get it. Okay.
No.
We're just glad they got them, of course.
We're glad we got them. Republicans in the House want an immediate investigation, of course, not into Trump's taxes and what was going on there and his possible money laundering, but into how the New York Times got the taxes. So
yeah. That's not very smart, because if you open that door, you can't escape the conversation. Well, what's in them? I mean, you can't have a hearing about how they got them without talking about what was in them. And if the other side, the minority, well, I mean, if it's the House, it won't be a minority, but the other side is all.
You're right. The House Republicans don't think that far ahead.
Yeah, that's not too smart at all. You mentioned this being a lot about healthcare, obviously. Yeah. I think it would probably be that way even if there weren't COVID, because we saw it. 2018 was all about healthcare.
Yeah.
So this ought to make it even doubly around that if you're talking about that. And now if people are aware, as if they're not yet, inevitably they will be, you literally are he's literally hanging the hopes of ACA destruction on this Supreme Court nominee. And if people get that,
yeah,
you'd like to think that would mobilize even more people to the polls to say, oh, no, we can't handle this at all.
And that's something that every Democrat has to just hammer out there. Biden tried to do it Tuesday night in the debate, and I think when he could get through, push that a little bit, but every Democrat has to be out talking about that all of the time. And it's one of the things that's making me, I've sort of gone back and forth over whether or not Senate Democrats should participate in the hearings with her. Mm-hmm. Because on the one hand, this isn't a legitimate nomination. It's just not. And they shouldn't convey any legitimacy onto this by participating. On the other hand, there's stuff that needs to be talked about. And the Affordable Care Act being struck down by the whole court, that's way up there on the list. So I don't know. I go back and forth on whether I want him to be there.
Yeah, that's a tough call, Joan, as to validate it by participating or using the forum to hammer some things.
Yeah. Of course, on the other side, Senate Democrats are not always that great about using their microphone to their best ability or most effectively. So, if they're there just grandstanding, there's that problem too.
Yeah. They're not very good at that at all. I like impeachment though. I'm never afraid to impeach. I mean, I wish we had the stomach to just go ahead and do it. Just do it.
They've got enough. They've got enough on Barr. They've got enough on DeJoy at the post office. Just do it.
Yeah.
It would excite Democratic voters too.
Right. And we can, a little more excitement on our side can't hurt.
Can't hurt. It can't just be fear, Mark. We can't just be voting because of fear. We have to vote for hope too. That's true.
I don't think Biden did poorly last night, even under the circumstances. In fact, Joe, I think, I'll be very honest with you. I was very, I had fear of gaffes last night.
Yeah.
And I can't even say that happened. I mean, he just literally wouldn't let him speak. So, and he was effective in a few of his jabs back, I think.
When he could center himself, when he could take a deep breath, look directly in the camera and speak directly to people, he was fantastic.
That's right.
He was really great. And I think probably that in debate prep, they knew this would be coming from Trump. They knew he would try to be disruptive. They knew he would try to hit at Biden's probably biggest weakness, and that's his stutter. And knowing that if he got rattled, if he got angry, it could bring the stutter back, and that would cause him to be halting. And I don't think that really worked. Even on his attack on Hunter Biden and his drug problem, Biden's response coming back to that was just phenomenal. And I think if people see that, people particularly in this opioid crisis who've had families struggle with drug addiction, I think that he gained probably a lot of empathy, if nothing else, in that. It was a tremendous response on his part. So they did debate prep well, I think.
Yeah, I think that was a backfire because of Biden's response on Hunter. It was very pathetic. And who can't relate to that?
Yeah.
Days with all that's been going on with opioids and everything else. Yeah, I think that they did well. How can people not see that Trump literally, I don't think he offered one policy proposal on any subject, did he? Not even half of a policy proposal.
No, and he lied about the stuff that he says he's done on healthcare. He hasn't done anything on healthcare. He signed executive orders that are worth nothing.
Yeah, right.
He claimed, I think, again, the veterans bill that actually was passed under Obama. I think that and healthcare were the only things he really said, okay, I did this, and he didn't do them.
Right. There was just nothing there. just screaming.
Just screaming. The Proud Boys liked it.
That's a problem. That's a problem.
Big problem. It's a big problem. And I have to tell you, living in Idaho, I'm more than a little nervous about what could happen in the aftermath of the election because we have a lot of those guys here.
You should be. I wonder though, Joan, I think many of us felt, and I heard this more at this first debate than in others, that a lot of people have probably already made up their minds. But I wonder if there are some who still had their minds changed by that Proud Boys comment alone. I wonder about that. You know, I just have a feeling there might have been some people who thought they had made up their minds and heard that and said, whoa, dude, wait a minute.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
Could be. What I'm thinking is probably more likely is it'll be motivating for voters who might not show up otherwise.
Yeah. That'll be the real change. People who might otherwise show up. No, that makes some sense. So the Senate, you mentioned that earlier. What do you think? How do you think we're looking? Can Democrats win the Senate?
I think Democrats can win the Senate.
Okay.
It's right now it is 53-47 Republican advantage. So we can get 3 seats. We can get Arizona, Martha McSally. We can get Maine, get rid of Susan Collins, replace her with Sarah Gideon, which will be wonderful. And, you know, it's Cory Gardner in Colorado, pretty much is toast. So that gets us tied. Biden in the White House gives us Kamala Harris as VP, casting the tie-breaking vote. But beyond that, I think that we're looking at Lindsey Graham in South Carolina in trouble. Tom Tillis in North Carolina in trouble. Joni Ernst in Iowa is in trouble. Steve Daines in Montana. Possibly even Sullivan in Alaska. Really, we could pick up a healthy majority, not enough to get rid of the filibuster. Well, enough to get rid of the filibuster, hopefully, not enough to reach the 60 vote majority that we would need to make the filibuster moot. But I think that we can steal that back from Mitch McConnell, and I think that is pretty much as important as beating Donald Trump right now.
How you feeling about Georgia? I see Warnock has kind of moved up.
Yeah, if we can get Matt Lieberman to finally drop out, maybe Warnock could clear the hurdle of a runoff. Maybe. We've got to get him in the top 2. We absolutely have to get him in the top 2. And it looks like it could happen. The other seat as well against Purdue, I think Ossoff is looking good there. It's one of those that's sort of on the cusp. It means we've got to get every Democratic voter out. My preference is that they figure out a way to do it so their ballot is in electors' hands on November 3rd. I really, vote by mail is a wonderful thing, but I don't want to rely on it this time around. I want Trump's defeat so clear on election night. He does not have a basis to fight it. Yeah.
So there's no doubt about it. And Lieberman, I guess apples don't fall too far from the tree.
Not at all.
I don't even remember
this guy.
He was our nominee in 2000. I don't even remember what were we thinking? What happened to him?
Al Gore thought he could get Florida with Joe Lieberman because of the Jewish vote.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And
thank you, Al Gore. I go back and forth. Did Al Gore do the nation a bigger disservice with Joe Lieberman, or was it John McCain with Sarah Palin? I haven't figured that one out yet. It's a toss-up still for me.
Well, Al Gore actually probably did win Florida. Actually.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, it's the count.
Thank you, Supreme Court. There you go. Just bringing us full circle there.
Again. Biden was asked directly about ending the filibuster, hacking the court. He didn't really answer.
No.
Was that smart?
Yes.
Yeah.
because, you don't want to scare off too many people. But what's really good from my perspective is that he didn't rule it out.
That's right.
And he's been open to it. And I think we're seeing greater openness in the Democratic caucus in general, in the Senate, toward doing it. Because they know, at this point, they know Mitch McConnell. They just know him. And there's no way that all of the stuff they need to do to try to scrabble back from what Trump has done to us, if McConnell has a veto. There's just no way.
Yeah. Folks, this is
I
it.
should say that there is one Democratic seat that's in a little bit of jeopardy in the Senate, and that's Doug Jones in Alabama.
Oh, yeah.
But even with that, he has been just a superstar Democrat for us.
Yeah. And he's
if you have a few extra bucks, kick into Doug Jones. It can't hurt.
Yeah. He's not wavered.
Yep.
As you brought up, I'll give you another one. The DSCC has given up on it. But Mike Espy is polling better in Mississippi against his opponent, Amy McGrath in Kentucky.
Yeah.
It's Mississippi. But people forget, was it a couple of years ago, Mike forced a runoff against Cindy Hyde-Smith.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I wish there was something we could do down there.
It's turnout again. It's voter suppression. It's all of the worst that Republicans can do kind of happens in Mississippi.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a tough one. But if there's the tsunami that we see could happen, it's not out of the realm of possibility.
Mike told me on this show 3 to 4% more white voters, and he's got it. And his optimism lies in this, Joan. It was the white kids on college campuses who, within a couple of weeks, got that flag taken down. People have been trying to get rid of that flag in Mississippi for decades.
Yeah.
And white kids who said, nope, we're done with this. So he's hoping that it's that group of people and that groundswell is going to finally say, we're finished with all of this. And so
that's good to hear.
Yeah.
It's good to hear. It gives me a little bit of hope there.
Yeah,
it could be a tsunami. We could see gains in the South, and my God, it's time. It's time. I mean, there's no hope for Idaho.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Folks, Joan McCarter, as always, she's wonderful. And Joan keeps us, okay, keeps us from pulling our hair out. This is all still politics. And she's got a good point. Because if this can be held up, they probably don't want to risk either Trump losing or having to do this in the lame duck. So, we still got some fight in us, y'all. We just have to do it.
Call your senators either way. If they're Democrats, call them and say, delay this. If they're Republicans, call them and say, you'll rue the day you voted for her.
You'll be like Susan Collins. Finish. I mean, Amy, does she have a shot, you think?
McGrath?
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
No. Booker probably would have run stronger, I think.
Yeah.
McGrath is not a great campaigner, but really anybody would have a hard time because as much as Kentucky dislikes McConnell, and he's always underwater in approval ratings, they elect him again because he's powerful and he brings a lot of money back to the state. So.
Okay.
Yeah. Sorry, I didn't want to end on a bad note.
No. We've got a lot of good notes here. We're going to keep fighting. Joan, so good to see you and hear your voice. Joan McCarter, ladies and gentlemen, thank you.
You are most welcome. It was a pleasure.
Always.
God, you are our refuge. Send our ancestors to guard our doors. Cast out this virus from our communities and our bodies. Heal, bless, and protect everyone listening and their loved ones. Thank you for listening to Make It Plain and Get Woke. Remember to listen, like, and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever you get your podcasts. If all minds are clear, it has been made plain.